What is up, members of the Izzone, and welcome back to another episode of Impact Izzone, Season 6, Episode 20. It's been a while since we last did a podcast, but that's because we're on the road. We've been traveling back to back. We went from Chicago, and now we are live coming at you in Des Moines, Iowa here for the NCAA tournament. And I got, of course, the usual cast of Kyle Turk, Joey Ellis joining me for Episode 20 here in Des Moines, right in the hotel room.
It's been a minute since we've done a mobile podcast on the road. I like it.
It's a big-time Holiday Inn downtown.
You can't beat it.
Lovely Des Moines, which right now is looking pretty crappy, I will say. It was very beautiful in the middle of the day, and now all of a sudden it just looks like a gray mess. Man, that's a tough weather take there.
Always have to incorporate the weather, don't we?
What? The sun went down? It's getting dark outside, and you're like, it's crap. It's just the time of day. It's 7:31. You know, it's when the sun goes down.
Turk is
tough take.
Turk's battling for food or something today. I don't know what's his deal.
All weekend, we've struggled all weekend.
I've been getting past it. I don't know. Had Drake's Diner this morning. Ate a nice tall stack of pancakes. Was absolutely fire. Filled the belly up. But either way, we're here to talk some basketball. And joining us on the pod this time, they're joining us in Des Moines. They were there with us for Chicago. They came on as special guests. But from Focal Point, Michael Epps and Griffin Stroin in the house.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, really excited to be on the pod. Pod.
Yes, it is. Griffin's just a little nervous to be on the pod. But, of course, Season 6, Episode 20. It's big time, winning time for Michigan State. The NCAA tournament is upon us. This is March. Shout out to my boy, John Rothstein, for the This is March tweets. I need them all the time. But before getting into the NCAA tournament, because we didn't get a chance to do the podcast last time, we got to take a minute to talk the Big Ten tournament. We got to recap the game against Wisconsin. The Spartans made it all the way to the championship game, defeated in-state rival Michigan for the third time, completing a 3-0 sweep over the Wolverines in Chicago to become Big Ten tournament champions. Final score in that one, 65-60. And really quickly, going around from that game, thoughts, takeaways about what happened. For me, it's truly, I think, one of the biggest wins in Michigan State history to sweep your rival 3 times, win a Big Ten regular season championship, and a Big Ten tournament championship. With the way this season has gone, just a huge win for Michigan State. And, I mean, honestly, not me, not a lot of the media pundits thought they were going to go that far in the Big Ten tournament.
Well, it looked like Michigan at one point in the season was maybe heads and shoulders the best team in the conference, just in terms of on paper. But Michigan State surely came in there and just trumped all those notions. And like you said, the three-peat of a very good team like that is very tough to do. And they seem to do it really pretty much every game. I mean, Michigan looked like every time that they were in control had a chance to win at least 2 out of 3 of those games. In Michigan State's resiliency, especially down the stretch, I thought was really impressive. And Cassius Winston has been doing what he's doing all season long and continuing to carry this team, especially in the biggest of moments.
There's also a big bleep you to Joey Ellis for predicting the season sweep and then probably a win in the conference title game too.
That was a 0 for 3 every game, and I'm fine with it.
No, and they were big time performances, especially down the stretch in that last game. A couple of big baskets, which MSU really, for their money, Indiana on the road comes to mind. Maybe the end of the second Michigan game was when there were kind of winning time plays that needed to be made. I guess Purdue on the road kind of half counts too, but they weren't exactly in situations yet where they needed to score baskets at the end to win games. And 2 big clutch plays from Tillman and Winston get it done. I was surprised at that third win because for all their money, Michigan State probably looked like they were out of gas, and Michigan kind of just cowered in that second half of the third game, and MSU, for their credit, took advantage.
And it really surprised me how Matt McQuaid really came out of nowhere. He had a couple solid games earlier in the tournament, but he came out with 27 on a day when nobody else was really shooting. Kenny Goins could have been a candidate for an all-tournament team player, and he really just did not show up in that championship game. Matt McQuaid really showed up with a career-high 27 points.
Yeah, but the one thing that no one brought up, which I was a little surprised about, the resilience of this team. Kyle Arns goes down. They go down even more points-wise. And then in the second half, I mean, with 2 guys in the boots on the bench, and they still somehow come back, win that game. I mean, this team's been through a lot, and they still continue to go through a lot, and they just continue to win games, which I think is like the biggest factor about this team. They never quit, they never give up, and that's how you beat your rival 3 times in a season, and that's how you become Big Ten champs.
I think you're exactly right. The resiliency of this team and what they've done to be shorthanded, to be doubted so many times this season, first with Langford out for the season, then Nick Ward misses the last 5 games of the regular season. This team has found different ways to win, and Griffin, you hit on it. Before getting into my larger question about the depth issue going into the NCAA tournament, I do want to take a minute to talk about Kyle Arns' injury. It comes down on the foot of Kenny Goins, and X-rays came back negative. It was not a fracture, more of a bad sprain to his left ankle, but still out for the foreseeable future. And before getting into depth, you look at that injury, and I think it begs the question of what a lot of people brought up before entering the Big Ten tournament of whether Michigan State should have gone on and played as hard as they could and played Winston so many minutes and won the whole thing, or maybe not necessarily given up, but just tried not as hard to win this entire Big Ten tournament, which they ended up doing. But Kenny Goins, Cassius Winston, Matt McQuaid all have to play 30 minutes plus prior to an NCAA tournament that's going to push them to their limits.
Well, I think anybody who follows Michigan State and knows Tom Izzo knows that, they're not living in fear like that somebody, you're going to run out of gas or you're worried about getting injured and saving, a game or two for your star players like Cassius Winston. So, I mean, it's tough to say looking back at it now, but obviously the injury to Arns is definitely going to hurt. Even in, jumping ahead to the first round tournament game against Bradley, you saw moments, especially on both ends of the floor, where you really miss Kyle Arns and what he brings you, not just on the court, but in terms of leadership, all of that on the floor as well. So it's going to be bigger minutes for guys like Gabe Brown, and even Connor George got some 5 or 6 minutes the other day against Bradley. So, I mean, can these guys step up when they're called upon? They don't quite have the experience that Arns brings to the table there. So definitely depth is going to take a hit. But really, once the tournament rolls around anyways, you're rolling with 6 or 7 guys or whoever you feel most comfortable making a run with. So it's going to be impactful, but I don't think it's the end of the road for Michigan State. They still have a lot of pieces to work with.
In hindsight's 2022, of course, knowing that the injury actually took place, I think does require you to look at the question of should they have played that hard. Other thing, too, is Arns was not necessarily at 100% by any means, maybe, 75%, somewhere close to that, and was not his usual self. So, man, it's a tough injury to take, and the way the team was able to rally around it, McQuaid pops off in that second half after his roommate and his buddy goes down, is a big deal, and maybe this team, you almost get the sense that in a game like that, MSU's got that team of destiny feel to it a little bit, too.
Yeah, and I think that Matt McQuaid is a consistent at least 35 minutes. I mean, and he played a lot of that championship game, but he did not seem like he was tired at all. It seemed like that game meant so much to him that he was just out there rolling. I think that Henry is really going to have to step up because Connor George, he's a fan favorite, but there's no reason he should be in an NCAA tournament game. I mean, he's going to give you maximum effort, but when Gabe Brown and Aaron Henry are playing at their best, those are the guys that are going to go out there and make an impact, and Aaron Henry just did not show up in that Bradley game, especially in the first half.
Yeah, real quick, I just think that, in that championship game, there's a reason to maybe, let off the gas and just let Michigan coast. But also at the same time, you're playing Michigan. This is your number one rival. And those rivalry games, no matter where it is, when it is, they matter. They're really important. So, I think because of the team and because of the scenario, there's no way that Michigan State was just going to let up on their rival. You can't. The amount of crap that Michigan fans would give us the whole rest of the season just because they beat us in the Big Ten championship game, I think that's a big reason as to why they couldn't just stop. They had to keep going.
Yeah, well, Spartans kept going, played all their players, played Winston, Goins, McQuaid, 30-plus minutes, went on to defeat the Wolverines 65-60. Once again, the final score in that one to become Big Ten tournament champions. A win there. It was on Selection Sunday, and a win there, I don't know if it earned them, but either way, the win ended up having them placed in Des Moines, Iowa, where we are currently as a 2 seed in the East region, and they kicked off NCAA tournament play with a very dicey, very close win over Bradley. Final score was 76-65, not really conclusive or showing of what it felt like really as we were sitting there watching that game. And in my opinion, it wasn't a great start to the tournament, and it showed some issues and some holes I think Michigan State has. I think they weren't necessarily ready to play. Winston, McQuaid, guys like that all looked kind of tired. Kenny Goins especially. I don't know how much his tiredness has to do, but his legs just kind of looked gone. He was 0 of 7 from 3 in that game, didn't connect on any of his shots from beyond the arc, and him stepping out shooting that 3 is a big part of what gets this offense going, helps them stretch the floor, and if he's not shooting, that's a very bad problem for Michigan State, and it almost cost him here at Bradley, but once again, the play of Cassius Winston was huge down the stretch.
Well, Bradley played him tight for 35, 36 minutes. Michigan State fans were having flashbacks of Middle Tennessee State just rushing to their minds there. But like you said, Kenny Goins, I think that's the biggest issue right now, I guess, for Michigan State. 0 of 11 from downtown in his past 2 games, which is really a big issue because the way he was shooting it down the stretch really opened up that offense for Michigan State. They were able to run pick and roll, pick and pop with whatever the defense is throwing at him with him and Cassius Winston. So Goins definitely, I don't know if it's fatigue. He was still getting good looks. It was shots and looks that he was getting pretty much all season. They just weren't going down. And, I mean, Matt McQuaid said to just keep sticking with the shot, keep firing them away because, I mean, eventually they are going to fall down. But you just wonder for Michigan State, if they want to go where they think they can go, does that supporting cast step up when they need to? Because yesterday, for pretty much the bulk of the game, they really didn't step up. Matt McQuaid did late. Outside of Cassius Winston, it was really Xavier Tillman who was pretty much any bit of consistent offense down the stretch.
Yeah, but I think that the supporting cast does stand up. I don't think MSU should panic in any way, shape, or form. I think 15 seed Bradley. Sometimes when you're a team as high as Michigan State and you're playing a team as quote unquote low as Bradley, you play down to your competition a little bit. So I don't think that Spartans should panic or anything like that. I think they'll be able to get the job done. Like I said they've been resilient all year. Things have happened to them. So Kenny Goins can't make a shot right now. What does that mean? I mean, they're going to find other offensive ways to get it done. I mean, I can't find any way to really doubt the Spartans because, I mean, for the whole season, people could be doubting them with everything they've dealt with.
Give Bradley credit because they really came out and played probably the best game that they could have played. They had a ton of fans in that arena. It was definitely a Bradley-dominated crowd. The team was behind them, and especially in the second half, the start of the second half, they got that big dunk, and they went up, got a 6-point lead, I believe, 5 or 6, and there was some doubt starting to creep in. MSU just made the plays that they needed to make, and I was surprised that Bradley never really got out to a bigger lead. After MSU came back and tied it, Bradley had a ton of foul calls in their way, got in the bonus pretty early, but Bradley never really got to take that step forward, and that's how MSU's just talent increase was able to seal it for them.
And fouls kind of affected the game on both sides, too. I don't really remember anyone being in specific foul trouble from Bradley other than there's kind of 6-man off the bench, Nate Cannell. Only played, I think, 20-something minutes after he usually averages around 30. MSU, I think, for the most part, they just dealt with what they had to. Aaron Henry picked up a couple fouls. Gabe Brown picked up a couple fouls. And then it was the Connor George show, just as everyone predicted, right, Joey? Connor George?
Didn't see that coming.
5 minutes, and I think Foster Lawyer had a minute and a half. It's it really, at this stage, it's win your games any way you can, any way you have to, get the job done and move on.
Well, yeah, you said it. Survive and advance is the motto of the NCAA tournament, and survive and advance is what Michigan State did, defeating Bradley 76-65. And another talking point, and I don't want to sit on this for too long because I'm sure it's given all of us headaches, but during that game, the clip goes around of head coach Tom Izzo for Michigan State berating Aaron Henry during the game, and the clip's gone viral. There's been a lot of people chiming in on the fact that Izzo yelling at Henry is not what he should be doing. It's not correct coaching. It's not the correct way to treat people, or however you want to slice it. And, of course, all the beat writers, the people who have been around the team, have various different things to say, and that this is how Izzo has been coaching. It's how he works, and it's worked for years now. You look at guys like Draymond Green in the NBA who have pretty much gone toe-to-toe, head-to-head with Izzo at every point in their career and have become better players, have cherished Izzo and the relationship they have with him. And like I said, don't want to linger too much longer on it. But for me, it's a very trivial thing, and I think it's just national media, people from outside who watched the game on, I think it was TNT or CBS.
Big audience.
Big audience. And they haven't watched Michigan State basketball too much before, and they saw Tom Izzo do what he usually does and just took it the wrong way.
He's teetering the Bob Knight persona, but I don't think it's a bad thing.
Wow.
I mean, he's getting there.
Wow.
Not getting there, but you know what I mean. He's on that end of the spectrum, I'll say. He's not your John Beeline, I'll tell you that.
No one is John Beeline
Right.
except
But anybody
for John
who's
Beeline.
followed the team, anybody who just is familiar with Tom Izzo knows this is really nothing new. I mean, it had to be really something that Aaron Henry did that just, ground his gears there and really made him just that upset. But he's also at the same time just trying to set a precedent, trying to set a message that, this is win or go home time. And he's never been a fan of the my bad, if you're a player saying my bad. He's willing to live with if a team's out shooting you out of the gym there. But the my bads and all that, those are things that can be fixed. Those are things you work on in practice. So like Julian said, it's trivial. I think social media played a huge role in making it what it was. It was the driving headline for the past 2 days, still is. But at the end of the day, you just look at the people, or lack thereof, who are transferring out of the program. Everybody knows what they're getting when they commit to play for Michigan State, and they know what they're getting out of Tom Izzo.
It was especially bad sequence for Henry when you think about it, between the couple of turnovers, an entry pass that led to a three. In no way was Aaron Henry trying to lose Michigan State the game in the way he was playing, but it was a stretch where an NCAA tournament game where this team doesn't deserve to go out like it would to Bradley. In that moment, you've got to be upset if you're Izzo. And the other side of it, I don't remember which one of us said it, but it'll be funny to think about this in 2 to 2.5, 3 years when Aaron Henry could be playing at all Big Ten. You're Joey, you're pointing at yourself. When he's playing at an all Big Ten level, and no one's going to sit there and, oh man, Izzo did this and it was such a great thing. They're going to they roast it now, they give Izzo crap now, and then it goes away. And I think the team today, when we talked to them, tried to make it go away, and it'll probably be CBS cutting to Aaron Henry more often than not every chance they get on Saturday night. But it'll be something that sticks with them for probably through Saturday night, and then after that.
You're right, Turk. It does always go away, and it's because it happens pretty much every game. Izzo always will have one of those moments. A lot of the times it's with Henry or Gabe Brown this season, because these are freshmen that don't have much experience, and they're put into a pretty high-impact role. Henry's playing big minutes there in the second half. He's just a freshman, and he doesn't maybe quite understand how big that moment is, where the game is on either side, and he's not maybe hustling as much as he should. That's totally understandable for a coach to get into a freshman especially.
Yeah, and I think the biggest reason to see that the whole media is just freaking out about it, look at all the players that are supporting Izzo through Twitter and other various ways. No one has said, man, this guy got in my gears when he was doing that. Not a single player. Draymond, even Henry acknowledged it on Twitter. So I think that the fact that the whole media is freaking out about this, especially because this is what he does, this is what he has done for years now. I think it's a little ridiculous, but I think, it's just the national media seeing a story and just trying to capitalize on it. But, yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. The players obviously don't think it's a big deal, and so Michigan State will just have to move forward.
Well, there we go. Glad we got to clear the air on that from the impact side of things.
We could spend like an hour on it.
We really could. There's a lot to go through on that.
Who
and
would
I think,
want to?
Exactly. And Joey, I do want to point to you because I didn't have the mic, but the Bob Knight thing, I don't think Izzo's teetering that area. But you talk about
he's on that end of the spectrum
from that era, from that
right.
kind of way of coaching, and Izzo is there. Of course,
he's not throwing chairs yet.
No.
But he's closer to that end of the spectrum than the other.
Very close, of course, to John Beeline and other coaches who are a little bit softer in the way they talk. But either way, Michigan State gets the win over Bradley. Izzo probably happy about that as his team survives and advances to move on to the second round of the tournament, trying to get out of the first weekend for the first time in the past 3 seasons is Michigan State. But first, they got to get through a Big Ten rematch as they'll take on the number 10 seeded Minnesota Golden Gophers coming up pretty soon here, just a day away from that second round matchup against Minnesota. And you look at this Golden Gophers team, it's very different than the team that Michigan State faced earlier on this season. In that game, the Spartans won 79-55 at the Breslin Center. Amir Coffey and Jordan Murphy combined for just 9 points on 3 of 10 shooting from the field. but both players playing in a different way. Amir Coffey absolutely lighting it up over the past 7 games for the Golden Gophers. 23 points per game is Coffey at 18 in their first-round matchup against Louisville, an upset there over the 7-seeded Cardinals. And you look at this Minnesota team playing different basketball, better basketball. Are you at all worried for this Gophers team? I mean, it's a rematch. The Spartans have already seen them. It's not like they're going in playing a team from, say, the Pac-12 that they've never seen before from across the country. It's a Minnesota team that they've played before.
Well, I think was the tenor of the locker room from the players, that the familiarity of this opponent, let alone being a conference opponent in the second round, it can't hurt. This is a team who, on paper, and you've already proved it earlier in the season, that you're fully capable of beating. But granted, once the tournament rolls around and you're winning games, momentum and all that and belief in your team is huge. It's just the huge intangible that you really can't, put a measure on. But I think Michigan State, they match up with them well. This is a Minnesota team that's not very deep at all. I believe 1 bench point they had.
0 bench points.
0 bench points from last game. They've got a strong starting 5. They got 3 very capable guys in McBray or Murphy and Coffey, who were themselves could probably go for nearly 60 points combined. And then you add in a guy like Gabe Kelscher, who, if he's playing like he did last time out with 24 points and the way he's able to shoot it from beyond the arc, they definitely present some problems. But I still think Michigan State matches up with them very well. It's a favorable second round. There are definitely worse second rounds in some of the other regions. But it's going to be a tough game. I mean, it's 40 minutes or you go home. So you're really going to get everybody's best punch, and it should be another good game between these two.
Just need to go with a clear head if you're MSU, because there are many roads you can take mentally after a close game against Bradley, in a situation where probably momentum would have said you can go out there and wipe the floor with the Braves, and instead you sit there and play a tight game for 35 minutes. Coming out tentative is not the way to do it. And really getting the guys going that need to get going, Kenny Goins, Matt McQuaid, even a little Nick Ward too. Nick Ward, I think, is going to play a little bit more with the matchup problems that Minnesota plays inside. They're a little bigger, more physical team. They got Daniel Oturu there, the freshman, 6'10", who's an interesting guy. Not the most skilled around the basket, but is a big body that Ward's going to have to keep track of. And really, I mean, Xavier Tillman came along in the second half, so maybe this is going to be a situation again where the second half Michigan State comes along.
It'll be a very interesting matchup, and Kyle, I think you hit on it, getting Kenny Goins going, Nick Ward going. Look at some of the stats. If I got my math right, over the last 5, Kenny Goins is averaging 7 points, 7.6 rebounds, but shooting 9 of 32 from beyond the arc over the last 5. So getting him going, stretching the floor with him is going to be huge. If you're the Spartans, and if you're Minnesota, you got to attack the bigs down low. Attack the bigs, attack the wing spot, because as we saw, if Gabe Brown gets in foul trouble and Connor George has to play, that is a clear hole if you're Michigan State. Either way, setting up for what should be a very, very fun game. I'm not against the whole Big Ten rematch, as a lot of people are. I think this makes it for a very interesting game to see which team can add a new wrinkle to their game plan.
It only seems right, though, that these teams should be playing like in the barn, 8 p.m. on a Tuesday on Big Ten Network or something.
BTN, baby.
But now, what is it? CBS?
CBS.
CBS tomorrow? All right.
I'm not going to be mad.
No. that's
Kevin
fine.
Harlan, Reggie Miller.
Sure.
Kevin Harlan,
Dana.
nice guy.
Kevin Harlan, great guy.
Great guy.
Great
Super
guy.
nice, super nice guy.
I shook his hand and everything. Wow. Haven't washed my hand since.
You still didn't shake Reggie's hand yet. We haven't.
Not yet.
We haven't worked up the courage for that
All
yet.
I'm going to say, we're going to shake Reggie's hand and expect the Impact X Turner Sports pick
Yeah.
coming later on the gram.
Yep.
And the Twitter and the
job.
Facebook. All
Literally
social
anything.
medias. Get ready to see it, though. Michigan State will take on Minnesota tomorrow, Saturday, March 23rd. Game at 7:45 Eastern, Central. I believe Central. Don't know my time
7:45
anymore.
Eastern.
7:45 Eastern. Don't get all of this time zone changing stuff. Either way, Spartans will get set for that second round matchup, hoping to get out of the first weekend, breaking the bad streak of first weekend losses in the past 3 seasons. Cassius Winston and the Spartans looking to get it done over the number 10 seeded Minnesota Golden Gophers. That's going to be it from Des Moines, Iowa. Season 6, episode 20 of Impact Izzone is in the books at 7:55 p.m. in the Holiday Inn here in Des Moines. That's a big one.
Beautiful.
You love to see it. Look outside and it's dark now. How do you feel about that, Kyle?
I'm pretty nonplussed about it. We got to get to Zombie Burger.
We do. We
Gotta
do
get
have
their- Gotta
to.
get their stat.
Get there ASAP. So we're going to end the podcast, Season 6, Episode 20. We'll see you guys next time with Season 6, Episode 21. Coming sooner than you think.